Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. Today, we are going to go over Financial Aid 101. This presentation is intended for first-time students and parents who are looking to apply for financial aid at any college that they may be choosing to attend in the upcoming 2021-2022 academic year. My name is Deanna, and I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Joliet Junior College. Most of the information in today's presentation is applicable to any college that you might choose to go to, with the exception of a few slides in here that are JJC specific. Some of the topics we will discuss today: what is financial aid, where to get started on applying for financial aid, the cost of attendance, and types and sources of financial aid that are available to students. So jumping right in, what is financial aid? Financial aid is a broad term that refers to any type of program that offers financial assistance for the student toward the cost of pursuing an education. And it can be made up of a wide variety of types, such as grants, which are typically free to the student, scholarships, sponsorships, loans, which the student needs to pay back at the end of their education or when they stop attending school, and work study, which is student employment, where you work on campus and earn money towards the cost of your education. Some of the general eligibility requirements are listed here. For federal and state aid, you need to be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. Male students need to be registered with Selective Service. You need to choose a college that's approved for federal funding. You need to be seeking a degree, certificate, or diploma at your school. You need to maintain satisfactory academic progress, which is completing the courses that you attend and maintaining good grades, and that policy will differ from school to school. You must not owe a refund on a federal grant. You must not be in default on a federal student loan, and you must demonstrate financial need based on the results of your FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. So speaking about the FAFSA, the next slide is about how you go about applying for financial aid. The first step is applying online at fafsa.ed.gov. We recommend on your FAFSA that you use the IRS data retrieval tool to import your tax information. It's the most accurate and efficient way for you to get your tax information onto the FAFSA. And then allow 5 to 7 business days for the schools that you're sending your FAFSA information to receive your results. And once they receive them, there may be some additional steps. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. So when do you want to apply? The FAFSA is available online beginning October 1st of each year for the following academic school year. So this year, October 1st, 2020, you will be applying for the FAFSA for the 2021-2022 school year, which begins fall 2021. You want to make sure to file as soon as possible each year after October 1st. State funding gets exhausted earlier, and so the earlier that you apply, the better chances you have at getting some of the state funding. What do you need to get started to complete your FAFSA? You need to create a FSA ID and password at the website listed here, which is fsaid.ed.gov. A student needs to create one, and if you're considered a dependent student, then your parent will also need to create a separate one for them. You want to gather your 2019 income and tax information for both the student and the parents. And you want to decide which colleges that you want to send your FAFSA information to. You can choose up to 10 colleges and list those on the FAFSA. As I mentioned before, we recommend the use of the IRS data retrieval tool on your FAFSA. It is a step in the income section of the FAFSA. It is the easiest way, the fastest way, and the most accurate way for you to get your tax information on your FAFSA. There are certain conditions that if you meet, you're not eligible to use this data retrieval tool process, and some of those conditions are listed here. If you meet one of these conditions, the FAFSA will not present the opportunity for you to use this tool, and you will have to manually enter your income information into the FAFSA from your tax returns and W-2s. On the FAFSA, you will be asked questions to determine your status as an independent or a dependent student. To be considered an independent, the Department of Education has classified these reasons to be considered independent. If you're 24 years old as of January 1st of the award year that you're completing the FAFSA for, if you're married, if you're a graduate or professional student pursuing your master or doctoral degree, if you have a dependent who receives more than half of their support from you, for instance, if you have a child who you're supporting, if you're a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, or if you're in active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes other than training. If you meet any of these criteria, the FAFSA will consider you an independent student, and you will not need to input your parent tax information and data. There are some other circumstances that you could be considered an independent student. These are listed here. For instance, if your parents are deceased, if you have been deemed an emancipated minor in a court, if you've been given court status of legal guardianship, if you have been determined that you're an unaccompanied youth who is at risk of being homeless by your high school in the last year, if you have been determined as an unaccompanied youth who is homeless by the director of an emergency shelter or by a runaway or homeless youth basic center. And your school will most likely need some more information if your independent status is determined by one of these criteria. So what happens after you apply and submit your FAFSA? A student aid report, also referred to as a SAR, is sent to you, the student. You want to verify that your information is correct on your SAR. And if you find anything that needs to be updated, you can return to the FAFSA at fafsa.ed.gov and make corrections, and don't forget to hit resubmit again. Your SAR is going to list an expected family contribution, also referred to as an EFC. This expected family contribution is what the Department of Education has determined that your family should be able to contribute to your education for that particular academic year. The schools are provided this number, and then they use it to determine your financial aid eligibility and awards that you are eligible for. The colleges that your FAFSA goes to will reach out to you individually. Most likely they're going to send you an email. Letters are a little more outdated, but some may still use those. Some of them are going to use your school-specific student email account only to send this to, so you want to be sure that you're checking those for whichever school that you've applied for. And you want to read these letters carefully because they could be requesting additional documents from you. They may be requesting you to accept or reject your awards. Any correspondence that you receive from the schools, you'll want to read carefully and make sure you take action right away. If you forgot to add a school or you changed your mind on which school you would like to attend, you can always change your schools on the FAFSA. Log back into the FAFSA. You can add another school code, and then don't forget to electronically sign and submit your FAFSA again. Some students are selected for a process called verification. The Department of Education selects students and then lets the schools know if you're selected for this process. It will also be stated on your student aid report or SAR if you are selected for verification. If you're selected, the school is going to request additional documentation from you, such as tax return transcripts from the IRS or verification worksheets. I shouldn't say or, and verification worksheets. And they may have to request other supporting documentation as well. So it's important to be reading any communication you're receiving from your school's financial aid office. Your federal, state, or state aid that you're eligible for will not be awarded or released until this process is complete. And it could take a couple of weeks depending on the school and the time of year that you're doing this process at. Schools may consider if you have special circumstances. Federal regulations allow for a review of your FAFSA data if there's been a qualified change of circumstance. Some of these may include a significant loss of income, such as a job loss, a divorce, or unusual medical expenses. There's also consideration for a dependency override. So if you're considered a dependent student, but you have circumstances where you believe that you should be classified as an independent student, then the school can review your dependency status. For either of these situations, you're going to want to contact the school's financial aid office and ask what their process is for these. They may have additional forms or documentation that they need to request from you. So how is it determined what awards that you get for financial aid? First of all, by regulation, your awards cannot exceed your expected cost of attendance. The cost of attendance is made up of different components such as tuition and fees, books, expected living expenses, transportation, and other miscellaneous costs. The cost of attendance figure varies from school to school because it's based on their components. So you take the cost of attendance at the school that you're choosing to attend, and if you subtract your expected family contribution, which is the number that the Department of Education has given you based on your FAFSA data, you're left with your unmet need. Using various kinds of resources and aid, the schools and the government can help cover a student's unmet need. So there's different types of aid that you can receive, and here's a quick list of some of them. We're going to dive in deeper to each of them. Federal aid, the typical ones that you'll hear of are the Pell Grant and the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. State aid, this is for the state of Illinois, is the Monetary Award Program Grant. Federal Work Study is a federal component that helps you get student employment on campus and get a paycheck. There are direct subsidized and unsubsidized student loans. Loans, again, you have to repay. And then there's for a parent to take out on behalf of the student, there are direct plus parent loans. For Pell Grants, this is federal aid that you don't repay as long as you are successfully attending and completing your courses. The maximum for the current year is $6,345 for the annual award, which is split between the fall and spring semester of $3,173 per semester. That number is based on full-time attendance, which is typically 12 credit hours or more per semester. The maximum annual amount changes annually. You're considered eligible for the Pell Grant based on your EFC and the number of credits you're taking at the school. The more need that you have, the higher the award you are eligible for with Pell. Pell can run out. There is a lifetime maximum of Pell, which is considered 600% grant eligibility, which equates to 6 years of full-time attendance at college. Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant is, again, federal aid that you don't typically repay as long as you're attending and successfully completing your courses. This is a much more limited funded grant than the Pell Grant. It's also based on your financial need, and it's often only given to students who have a 0 EFC, which is your expected family contribution of 0. The award amount for FSEOG will vary with the school because each school gets to determine how they use these funds. And far fewer students receive SEOG than the Pell Grant based on those limited funds. The Monetary Award Program, again, is state aid in the state of Illinois. It is grant aid that you do not have to repay as long as you're attending and successfully completing your coursework. This grant only pays tuition costs. The maximum annual award you could receive is $5,340, although that award amount varies based on which Illinois institution that you are looking at, and it varies based on if the institution is a 2-year or 4-year school. And it also varies based on your expected family contribution. It's only available to Illinois residents who are attending Illinois institutions. The RISE Act, the Retention of Illinois Students and Equity Act, is a new act that actually went into effect January 1st of 2020. This allows students who are not eligible for federal aid to still apply for and potentially be eligible for the Monetary Award Program in the state of Illinois. These types of students include, but are not limited to transgender students who cannot register for selective service, or non-citizen students who have not obtained lawful permanent residence. The alternative application for Illinois financial aid is available on the ISAC website at isac.org. The application is available right now for the 2020-21 academic year, and beginning October 1st, 2020, the 2020-2022 application will also be available for students. Federal work study is earned aid, so there's nothing to repay. You earn this by having a student employment position at the college that you are attending. It's budgeted based on a particular amount of hours, and it's nice because the work schedule is flexible to accommodate your class schedule since you're working on campus and with your college departments. Student loans are another type of financial aid. The William D. Ford Direct Loan Program are funds that are directly from the federal government. There are 2 types, subsidized and unsubsidized, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail on those. Subsidized student loans are loans that must be repaid with interest. They are need-based, so your cost of attendance minus your expected family contribution, and you have unmet need. You must have unmet need to receive these. While you're attending college, the interest is paid by the federal government, so that interest does not accrue as long as you're attending college. You must attend college at least half-time. Depending on your college, that's typically defined as 6 to 8 credit hours. The first repayment on this loan will be due 6 months after the date of last attendance, or if you've dropped below half-time attendance. The interest rate on these loans change each July. The current fixed rate for undergraduate students is 2.75% interest during repayment. Loans in this category are not based on credit history. Unsubsidized student loans are also loans that must be repaid with interest. These loans are not need-based, however, they still cannot exceed your cost of attendance. Interest is charged to you while attending college. So this is one of the areas where this varies greatly from the subsidized loan. You must, again, be attending college at least half-time. The first repayment is due 6 months after the date of last attendance, or if you drop below half-time. Again, the interest rate changes each July, and the current interest rate for undergraduate students is 2.75%. This loan is also not based on any credit history. If you're wondering how much you can borrow within these direct loans, whether subsidized or unsubsidized, here's your breakdown. For a dependent undergraduate student, the subsidized limit you'll see here is $3,500 if you're a first-year student, $4,500 for a second-year student, and so on. You may borrow up to $2,000 additional on top of those limits in unsubsidized loans. Independent undergraduate students may borrow up to $6,000 additional unsubsidized. Your school will help determine this if you are eligible for loans or if you apply for loans at that institution. They're going to help you figure out what your maximum amount is. Plus loans, again, this is where the parent is the borrower. On the other two we discussed, the student is the borrower. The parent must be creditworthy and complete a plus loan application to the college. Repayment begins after the last disbursement, so the repayment begins a lot sooner than the other two loans. Parents may contact their loan servicer to request in-school deferment. The limit of these loans, again, is the cost of attendance minus any other student financial aid that the student is receiving. And the current interest rate on these is 5.3%. This is a JJC specific slide. However, if you're not attending JJC, you can also check your school's website for their scholarship information. At Joliet Junior College, we have scholarships available for both part-time and full-time students who are new students, continuing students, or transfer students. Our scholarship applications are available each year between October 1st and May 1st, and you're applying for those for the following fall semester. Again, if you're not attending JJC, please look at your college website scholarship pages and see what they have available for you. You always want to apply for at least a few scholarships. Oftentimes, a lot of these go unused, and you'll never know if you'll be eligible or not until you apply. Don't pay for fee-based scholarship services. That's just a general tip. And there's a few websites listed here that have free scholarship searches for you. If you need assistance completing your FAFSA, feel free to reach out to our office. We have helpful videos available on our website, jjc.edu/financial aid. Virtual appointments are available. We have advisors who can sit with you on a virtual appointment and help you answer any FAFSA questions that you might have. If you need to schedule a virtual appointment, please call our office at 815-828-4340. Before your appointment, you'll want to make sure to create that FSA ID we talked about for yourself as well as your parents if you're considered a dependent student. And you'll want to have copies of your and your parents' 2019 federal income tax forms, W-2s, and any other asset or income information. Some final tips on financial aid. Financial aid is a yearly process. You'll want to do that FAFSA every year after October 1st. Write down your FSA ID and password and store it somewhere secure. You need to use this every year. Tax return and income information is needed when you're completing your FAFSA form, so have all of that handy. Collect literature on financial aid and on preparing for college costs. There's a lot of information available on the internet and on your college's financial aid websites or portals. Ask questions throughout the financial aid process. That's what your financial aid teams and offices are there for, and consider all options available. Keep copies of all your forms and worksheets for your records. Inform the financial aid office about any changes affecting your family's income. And again, don't forget to read all correspondence carefully from the Department of Education as well as the colleges that you're applying for financial aid from. Deadlines do matter. For consideration of the state grant in Illinois college and attending Illinois colleges, make sure you do your FAFSA as soon as possible every October 1st, because those funds are first come, first serve, and they do run out. Some colleges, as I mentioned, require additional forms. Check with your college or review that correspondence they're sending you about how to complete those forms and any deadlines that they are giving you to complete those forms. Some colleges also require students to file your FAFSA by a particular deadline, and often that's in early spring. So again, make sure you're keeping your eye on those deadlines for any colleges that you're looking to attend. I want to thank you all for being here with me today. If you need any information, we are happy to help you. Our contact information is below, including our address, our phone number, our email, and we also have online chat and just general information on our website, which are all listed below. Again, we're going to be putting up some FAFSA videos about completing your FAFSA or FAFSA tips and tricks. And we also have those virtual appointments for FAFSA help available for you as well. Again, thank you, and please let us know if you have any questions.